Hey everyone, it's Zack Beck. Millennials have been hit hard over the last number of years, starting with the Great Recession back in 2008, stagnant wages over the last decade, $1.7 trillion worth of student loan debt, an unaffordable housing market, and then on top of that, a pandemic which wrecked the US economy. So clearly the millennial generation has had difficulty entering into the next phase of their life where they can actually build wealth. And if you're in that situation right now, first and foremost, I want to say I'm very sorry, as I can fully relate to this myself, and I want to share strategies that you can employ right now, that it is not too late for you to actually build wealth to move forward and achieve your financial goals. So let's take our time, dive in the details, and jump into it right now. As previously mentioned, millennials have been dealt a difficult hand when it comes to building wealth and achieving their financial goals. This is all the more relevant now today in this post-pandemic economy where we're trying to navigate and figure out how to move forward. And one of the things I want to encourage you is, if you're in this situation right now, either you're saddled with student loan debt, you cannot afford a home, maybe your wages haven't grown the way that you would like them to, maybe you haven't had the opportunity to invest up until this point because you lack discretionary income, and now you're sitting here wondering how can you accomplish your goals. I just want to encourage you that it is not too late. One of the most important psychological things that we need to understand is we need to accept where we are. It is very difficult if we're always looking backward to actually move forward and achieve our goals. In this particular instance, for the millennial generation, it is clearly unfair, it's super unfortunate, and I'm sure people in the baby boomer generation look back and wish they had provided a better framework for us to achieve our goals and actually have a better economic outlook for the majority of millennials. Now, I know some people can say, well, millennials are lazy or they don't do this. I would say that is not the case. Millennials are very hardworking. We're creative. We work multiple positions that we can actually maintain our finances to actually enjoy our life and hopefully move forward and achieve our goals, but it does come with a cost. So if you can take an assessment of your life and just take a step back and really accept where you are, realizing there may have been some wrong decisions, there's obviously some difficulty in the global economy that has put you in this position, realize that if you accept where you are, you can actually begin moving forward. Now, as part of that, you can actually take some tangible steps to look at your finances, assess what your income is, what your debt is, and also what possibilities you have to either scale back your spending and begin investing into the market. And one of the things you can also look at is see if you have an existing 401k. Many people opted into 401k plans with their employers when they first enter into the job market, and you might have done this without even realizing it. So if you've already placed some money aside, that is actually a very positive thing, because a 401k provides you with the opportunity to receive a contribution that also comes from your employer, where they match dollar for dollar up to $19,500 a year. So if you previously opened up a 401k and actually contributed to it along with your employer, you're already on the path towards building wealth. Now you just need to understand how to allocate things even more strategically so you can expedite this process. Now, if you're in the later stages of the millennial generation, in your mid-30s or 40s, and if you haven't opened up a 401k, you haven't saved any money, and you're in a difficult situation, I know it's understandable that you can be very concerned right now as to what your retirement in the future might look like, or if retirement isn't even an option for you. But I want to encourage you that it is not too late. You can begin this process now, but one thing that you can bear in mind is maybe you have a slightly different idea of what your retirement in the future could actually look like. Now, that's one of the things that we can control, is basically what our ultimate goals are. Now, it's ideal for us to be able to travel the world, have all the resources we need with not any stress associated with that, but obviously the situation that we find ourselves on a macro level is not the likely scenario for the majority of millennials out there. So I just want to encourage you that if you're looking at a different scenario long term, you can begin changing the framework by which you actually work towards that goal. For example, if you currently live in a very high cost of living state or city, you could think through the possibility of maybe moving somewhere else where it's more affordable, where the taxes are lower, where you might have equal opportunity to be able to attain a job, but also your cost of living will be less expensive. This is all the more relevant now in our global society, where now after the pandemic, many opportunities are being provided by employers for employees to work remotely. So you could still earn a good living, but you could live somewhere else, because as long as you have good internet and you have the ability to work remotely and do your job effectively, you could have a lower cost of living, but still have a good income. Furthermore, you want to take this into your own hands, and you want to take responsibility for this moving forward, because if you're just hoping that Social Security is going to take care of you in the future, that is not going to be something that you can fully rely on, as the solvency of that administration is very low, and also the actual payout from that agency is very low as well. So my encouragement to you is that you want to do everything you can right now while you're still in prime earning years to be able to set that money aside, invest it strategically, so that you're able to actually achieve your goals long term while still living in the present. When it comes to saving and investing, one of the things I strongly encourage is that people make a plan that works for yourself. You want to have a system in place that you can follow on an ongoing basis that doesn't actually have too much stress associated with it and that is not too complicated. I previously mentioned the 401k. That's a great thing to have open. You can do that through your employer. It's a pre-tax type of retirement account where basically money is automatically taken out of your paycheck, put into this account, and then in that account you actually invest into the stock market up to $19,500 a year. Make sure if you have money in a 401k that it actually is going into the stock market. You don't just want it sitting in there. The 401k is just an account. It's not the actual investment. Similarly, a Roth IRA is a post-tax retirement account where you can take money and invest up to $6,000 a year in this account by going into the stock market. Now, if you automatically have money going into those accounts, that is a great way to do it and try to maximize those as much as possible, realizing that you will not be able to touch the money until you're the age of 59 and a half. So once again, that's getting more towards retirement age. But if you have that system in place and you're automatically putting your money aside and maximizing that to the amount that you can afford, that is going to put you with more peace of mind and allow you not to have to worry or be concerned about the stress associated with retirement. You know you've got that taken care of. Now what you want to do is flip over and see how are you living in the present. Obviously you want to spend your money and your resources on things that bring value and joy to your life, whether that's going on traveling, eating good food, having nice things. Those are all great, but you might want to look at the areas that you don't need to spend money in and scale back so you have more money to be able to save and invest long term. Now from that perspective, one of the sayings I like is that spend extravagantly on the things that you love, but cut mercilessly on the things that you don't. So scale back on the things that don't matter to you if you don't need a certain subscription or if you don't like certain things, you don't necessarily need a fancy car, but spend money on the things that do bring you value and joy, because tomorrow is not a guarantee. We do not know what is going to happen in the future. So you definitely want to be living in the present so you at least have a fulfilling life, but also you want to be planning for the future simultaneously by having that money automatically getting set aside into those retirement accounts. Now, if you want to take it one step further to augment this process, to be able to benefit from compound interest, but also to augment the ability for you to actually retire maybe even earlier than you were hoping, you want to set money aside, maybe go into a normal investment brokerage account. There are plenty of opportunities for you to do so. You can do it on WeBull, you can do it on Robinhood, Betterment. There's so many places out there that exist, but my encouragement to you is once you actually begin investing, do it in something that's going to allow you to be consistent long term. Most of the time when it comes to our investing, we look at the headlines and say, what is the hot stock we need to choose, or what company is flashy right now, or what crypto should I go into? My encouragement to you is that if you're trying to pick and choose stocks or pick and choose crypto, you could potentially get right and get really wealthy off of that, but the likelihood scenario for you to do that is relatively small. So if you want to make sure you have less of a risk tolerance associated with where you're placing your hard-earned money, look at things like index funds. That's a great approach. Basically invest into this total stock market. So when you see the total stock market going up, your portfolio goes up. If the stock market's going down, your portfolio is going down. And that's a really seamless, automated, easy way to begin investing. And when you invest into a normal brokerage account, you pay standard taxes on it, so it's not sheltered in the same way a Roth IRA or a 401k is, but it's liquid in the sense that you can access it at any time. So it's a really good way for you to augment your saving strategy, but allowing your money to grow. Because if you're just putting money and setting it aside into your savings account, it's not going to gain anything other than the amount that you put in there, even if it's a slightly high interest savings account, because inflation's going to wear away at that. Now, you obviously want to have enough money set aside in an emergency fund that can cover 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. But as long as you have that set aside, any other money should be invested so you can at least have it grow over time, unless you're saving specifically for a down payment on a home or some other purchase that you need to make. You want to have cash associated with that. So there's just certain things that you want to take into consideration. But if it's a plan that works for you, that's the kind of plan that works for me, but you might have to need to do something differently. All I know is that when things are more automated and streamlined and simple, it's more likely that we're going to follow through with it over the long term, which is actually going to help you build wealth. Now, one significant burden that's been placed on the millennial generation is the student loan crisis. There's $1.7 trillion of student loan debt outstanding right now, the majority of which is with the millennial generation. And this is a burden that has been placed on this generation by people taking out loans at a high interest rate to get a degree for something that doesn't necessarily transfer into the real economy to actually earn enough income to be able to pay off the loan and actually move forward and achieve financial goals like buying a house or being able to actually do things like start a business. Now, I believe it's important for us to be aware of this because the student loan debt debt crisis is crippling, and it's really slowing down the ability for this generation to build wealth. Now, I don't want to get into the politics of this particular issue where people are going to say, well, too bad for someone who has a student loan. They made that personal decision. I didn't have a student loan, or vice versa, where you're saying that you should have your student loan forgiven by the government. There's so many different opinions on this. I'm not here to address how you should address this particular issue. I'm just here to say that this is an outstanding issue. And if you currently have student loans that you're working on, I would say just keep tackling them as best as you can. Obviously, there's politicians out there who are going to promise that they're going to cancel student loan debt, but I would say the likelihood of that happening right now is fairly low. President Biden campaigned on canceling up to $10,000 worth of student loan debt. He might fulfill that, but it's not guaranteed. He currently has a Secretary of Education looking into this at a deeper level, so it's likely that maybe a year or two or maybe 3 years down the road, maybe something happens. But for you right now in this day and moment, you need to make sure that you're not falling behind your payments. You want to make sure that you're tackling that as best as you can to get that out of your monthly expense, and so you can take that money and set it aside and invest it as appropriately for yourself. Now, when it comes to people thinking we're going to have $50,000 of student loans canceled, that is not going to happen at this present moment with this current administration. I know there's Senator Schumer and Senator Warren who've been advocating for that, but President Biden has shot that down every single time, and the likelihood of the Senate approving this is highly unlikely. And if we see something different in the midterm election with the Republicans taking over either the Senate or in the House, I would say this is dead in the water. So from that perspective, I think it's important for you to understand that if you're one of those individuals who's carrying a student loan debt right now, just try to do everything you can to knock it out as best and most effectively as you can so you can move forward and achieve your long-term goals. And lastly, the millennials have been dealt a super difficult hand when it comes to the housing market. Right now, housing prices are out of control. They've been going faster on the market and then coming off the market as quickly as possible, and inventory is extremely low right now. So the amount of money you're going to spend on something in this current market is not going to get you the value that you really should want. Even though there's record low interest rates because of the Federal Reserve's current policy, you're still not going to be getting a good value of a home in this current market from my perspective. Now, some people might have been able to do that during the pandemic. If so, great. But my encouragement would be to take a bit of a step back and watch what's going to happen. Right now, we might be seeing a bit of a rotation in the housing market where we're going to continue to see low interest rates. But as of a whole, as the economy is opening up due to the pandemic slowing down, obviously we have variations that might actually slow the overall opening and recovery a little bit. But from this perspective right here, we're looking at the possibility of maybe housing prices starting to normalize here in the future, maybe the next 6 to 12 months. So there could be an opening here down the line where people could actually find a good value of a home as we see more inventory on the market and as things start to normalize, where people don't feel like they're going to be trapped at home moving forward. They can live in a more densely populated city. They're more likely to go out and enjoy activities and amenities, so they don't necessarily want a big home. So those are some of the things that are happening right now, which might be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the millennial generation, but still is a difficult hand. And you really want to make sure before you get into a place where you're saddling yourself with more debt, with a huge mortgage, or you're making a large transaction like purchasing a house, that you have some of those other fundamentals taken into consideration and put into place, so not only is your retirement taken care of, but you're currently investing in this market so that you can access those funds if needed, and then you're doing everything else to cut spending, to save money, and to avoid lifestyle inflation and avoid other areas of consumer debt so you can move forward and achieve your goals irrespective of how old you are, irrespective of where you are in the scale of the millennial generation, and no matter what difficulty you encountered, you make the decisions for your life that can help you achieve your goals. And that's one thing that you have the ability to do so. And one of the great things living in this country that we have is the freedom to actually make decisions and do things that actually provide us the ability to achieve financial wealth, but also achieve inner peace and something that actually bring us a little more holistic benefits, not only to ourselves personally, but to our society, to our friends, to our neighbors, and to everyone else. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. If you wouldn't mind, please tap the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Help push this video to other people who might need to hear it. Furthermore, if you have any questions, please comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, get to know you, do any research on your behalf so you can make well and wise informed decisions moving forward. Furthermore, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to myself personally, as I do everything I can to create positive content that makes a positive impact in your life by encouraging you and myself to lead lives of meaning and purpose, all while maintaining balance and moderation. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please tap the notification bell. That will notify you every time I post a video, which I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. I hope you have one for me every day. Talk to you next time. Whoopsh.